Hey everyone, welcome back to the Lee-Chandler podcast. My name is Leland Baptist, and of course I have my co-host with me. How are you doing, sir?
Hey man, I'm it's been one of those Fridays. Murphy's Law, if something could possibly go wrong, it will. So anyway, I'm coping. Thank you.
So today, as Hank mentioned, it is Friday, and we have an amazing guest speaker. But before we introduce him, I want everyone to listen closely. I want you guys to get pen and paper or whatever you take notes with, because the gentleman that we're going to introduce you to not only has the expertise, but for many of you guys who are physicians, he has walked in your shoes. He is now also going to charter or show you guys a path in reference to becoming debt free and to have a solution that doesn't include the traditional quote unquote stuff that people have been sold in the past. So, with that being said, I'd like to introduce Dr. Jeff Anzolone. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
We're fantastic. We're happy that you are here with us today, and we're happy that no one's tooth has snapped in the process.
Absolutely. Not on Fridays.
So Doc, is today what you call an admin day or something like that in the medical profession, where you just take time to catch up with whatever?
That plus work on the other business, the one that I'm actively pursuing and growing to
Okay.
retire to, instead of retiring to nothing like unfortunately many people do. I want to retire from something to something.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Doc, do you find that a lot of your colleagues, once they get into medicine, and they start to quote practice, which I find an interesting word for people in the medical profession, that because they think they have arrived, they stop dreaming or seeking other opportunities?
I definitely find that, and also I find that they stop the learning process.
Woof.
You know, they keep going to get their requirements that, because each state has their own requirements. You've got to go so many continuing education hours
Correct.
to keep your license. So they keep doing that, but they don't educate themselves on what they're going to work for every day, and that's to make money and to invest their money, and so they're always thinking, oh, I've got this good income, I don't need to worry about it. And then something like a pandemic comes along,
Mm-hmm.
and the country and the state says, oh, well, Dr. Jeff, by the way, you can't practice for a couple months. We'll let you know when you can get back to work, So if you don't have other streams of income or know what you're doing, then
Mm-hmm.
you better get the lawnmower out or something,
Doc, it's interesting that you say that. When my wife and I moved to Indiana some time ago, we bought the house of a guy who was an anesthesiologist. He was 49 years old. He had developed early stages of Alzheimer's or dementia. And it was sad, at the age of 49, he didn't plan to have Alzheimer's or dementia, but it hit him not even in the prime, but sort of like in the prime of his life. And that was curtains for him. Okay. So I'm hoping that all of the doctors or the professional people out there who think that they have a single source income, I hope they listen very carefully, Doc, to what you're trying to implore upon them. Okay.
Yeah, and really what probably the single event that got me started down this road was we were snow skiing about 5 years ago, and kid cut out in front of me, and when I fell, you know how when you fall, how you catch yourself with your hands. Well, it bent my wrist back, and I was thinking, dang, what would I, you never think about getting hurt or getting sick until you get hurt or sick,
That's
you
it.
know? And that got me thinking, how would my family survive if I could not use my hands? I didn't know what to do, but I just knew that that was a problem. And, for business owners and people in practice or whatever, you think the best number is number one. I want to be number one, but that's actually the worst number one of anything. You're relying on one income source, or you've got all your money in this one investment, and it winds up being run by, different people that get put to jail, put in jail. So that's what got me started.
Wow. And remind me, Doc, I joined late. How long have you been working on your plan B, I should say?
That process started around 2016, 2017-ish.
And the great thing is that you had the foresight to recognize that was a problem or a potential problem, where a lot of people, when they have those experiences, they think, "Whew, maybe I should stop going skiing," right? Instead of like, "Man, I should have some kind of alternative just in case."
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to stop living my life. You go outside and go get hit by some crazy person in the car. I don't want to quit driving, but you gotta, learn how to be a defensive driver. So I think that's with anything in life. I don't want people to quit doing what they like doing. But I've got 2 teenagers now, and it's funny watching them grow up. They don't know what they don't know, and that's with anything. I start talking to these doctors about my journey and different things, and listen to them where they are, and I'm like, you don't know what you don't know. So I think that's a big part of it.
Do you find them, some of them, I'm going to say something, Doc. It might sound harsh. My wife is an OBGYN by profession, solo practice, and medicine nearly killed her and us. So the point I want to make is that, do you find that among your colleagues, there's this arrogance of invincibility, and that they, and as I said earlier, they have made it, they have arrived, and there's no place or nothing else that they want to do or need to do because they got it made?
I would say the people that I talk to that find out about me on a podcast or website, they don't have that attitude, because they're actually searching for a solution. But the people that I personally know, like in my hometown, they definitely have that I've arrived, my stuff doesn't stink syndrome, I guess. And what can you say? Sometimes people have to, get to that point where they make mistakes and stuff happens to them until they change,
Yeah. So true, Doc. So true. Doc, I would imagine now, doctors, I think the mentality is, I am a doctor, I am a physician, and they put themselves very, very high on the totem pole. And when they start to realize that something else is needed, they may become slightly frantic, but because of their mental attitude, they may think that they're too good for this or too good for that, or because they come in, they want to be top dog almost immediately. Do you find that to be somewhat true?
Yeah, for the people, like I said, the local people, and then people like I meet on trips or something like that, or that have a high income, whether they're an attorney or physician or whatever. I'm better than you, I've been to school longer than you, and you know, that sort of thing. And
Or I went to this school or that school. Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
man.
Well, I mean, if you go to LSU, I mean, of course you're the best person, you know, no
There you
offense,
go.
but anyway. But other than that, you know, there are other schools out there.
Unless it's Alabama.
So yeah,
Dr. Jeff.
we don't say that. We don't say the A word around
Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, my bad.
here. Okay.
Dr. Jeff, one of the you have, so for anyone who's listening, you have a lot of great resources on your website, which is debt-freedoctor.com. And one of the blogs or one of the articles that I like that you guys have up there is the one that talks about physician burnout. Physician burnout. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's very prevalent. I think over 50% now of the physicians in the U.S. are suffering from some sort of burnout. Unfortunately, I've lost two friends, local people to it. One was my childhood friend, was an ER doctor in New Orleans that unfortunately committed suicide, and a local dentist 2 years ago here.
Mhm.
And a lot of that has to do with burnout. Some of it had to do with finances. And the thing is, you go to school for so long, you get into so much debt, and you become miserable. Well, it gets to the point where, well, I can't quit because what else am I going to do to pay off $400,000 or $500,000 in student loans? So it's just a cycle, and that's another thing that I'm trying to prevent. That you know what, there is a different way to. So think about it. If you go to work, any work, and you're miserable, but if you can get to the point where money isn't an option, where you can work or practice however you want to do it, you know, a day a week or 2 days a week, or do something else, that gives you options versus the traditional, you know, put your money in a 401k until you're 70 method. So that's it's a different way to look at things.
And yeah, doc, you know, as I indicated, you know, not being a doc, I lived that doc mentality and lifestyle vicariously, and trust me, it's no fun. So for the spouses of physicians who may be listening, and I say physicians, doctors, I don't care whether they're DOs, dentists, chiropractors, physical therapists, all of the people who have higher education, your spouses may need help, but they don't know where to go to get help. So if you have the time or the inclination, you may be the one that might have to start the ball rolling to help them to see that what they're doing is not the be all end all.
Correct. And you know, there's a lot of resources out there for that, but it's the people that are closest to them, once they start seeing those warning signs, should start the process, you know.
And prayer does work if you listen to the answer. Yeah. Oof. I'm sorry, Doc. I had a moment. I mean, it was just a flashback. Again, I said my wife was OB, single in private practice, and they have a merciless life because they basically are working 24 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and anyway, I hope some OBs are listening. I hope some ER docs are listening. Yeah, I hope some cardiologists are listening. I hope some just docs who, they all have stressful lives, but those that are working 16 hours a day, those who go in the OR at 7 o'clock in the morning and come out at 10 o'clock at night, you know, I hope they're listening, Doc.
And
They had some research just came out after the pandemic, ER doctors, that I forgot how many thousands of them residents. I think there was 2,500. I think there's 2,500 ER residents a year that they're putting out, and a lot of them had their, they had already signed up to go to work at hospitals, but many of them after the pandemic rescinded their contract, so now they're left without jobs because a lot of these hospitals lost so much money and they cut back, and you're thinking, wait a minute, I'm an ER doctor, and you're telling me I'm out of a job because of a medical pandemic. So it just makes you realize that your profession isn't safe, your income is not safe, and you better have a backup plan.
Yeah, there's vulnerability, period, and you don't know when or where, but it's coming.
Right.
Yeah, it's.
And nothing lasts forever. And if someone's working hard for active income, at some point they have to be aware that the importance of passive income.
And it's not about what they need now. Doc, I read something probably a couple years ago that said that the current life expectancy in the US is somewhere upward of 84 years. This is before pandemic. And if the typical person retires at age 65, the question is, how do they live the next 20 years? And you mentioned the 401k and age 70 when they can basically start to withdraw money. But then the tax implications on that withdrawal gets to be very interesting too, that they haven't planned on. So the money they thought they were going to get upon retirement is now reduced by the amount of taxes they're going to have to pay on what they call gains or capital gains. Would you agree?
Yeah, I was telling Leland before the show that my son just read Rich Dad Poor Dad for teens, but he read Rich Dad Poor Dad, the regular book, a couple months ago. He just turned 14.
Yeah, my son read it at about 13. I paid him, but he read it.
Yeah, me too. But he had to give me a book report. But the first question he asked me after he read the original Rich Dad Poor Dad book was, Dad, how do I get to the point where I don't pay any taxes? And I was like, son, you don't even have a job yet. But I said, you're already asking questions that most people that have been working for years don't even ask. They just get their check and don't say anything about the taxes taken out. They accept it. And as you know, that there's things that you can do. And with that, I had a call this morning with a female ER doctor in Atlanta, and she was 43, she wanted to retire at 55, and she liked the idea of passive income, but she was on the 401k path and didn't really know what to do or how to do it. But what really impressed me about her, she was very diligent about her tithes and her offerings. From talking to her, it seemed like she wanted to maybe do some mission work or do something like that. And it doesn't matter what you want to do, but if you have a passion that you want to pursue, and you do the traditional route, well, you may be too old or not healthy enough to do that. You get to the point where, God, now that I'm retired, and now that I can, start a mission or go volunteer here or whatever, I can't do that now because I'm too old or I'm not healthy enough or whatever. And if you do how everybody lives, I just read the book by Bill Perkins, Die with Zero. That book, but at first I thought my wife wrote it, but I made a joke. But it really opened my eyes to what's important.
Mhm.
He's like, the goal is once you have enough to where you think you can fund your retirement, the goal is to spend and enjoy experiences with your kids and that sort of thing, and basically die with zero. But whether you agree with it or not, a lot of the concepts in that book really hit home about
Mhm.
what's really important and to enjoy your life now, because who knows what about tomorrow.
Wow.
Yeah. And this is something that Hank and I have spoken about before, whereas a lot of people will spend most of their adult years working. They may put money aside in like, like 401k or whatever else. And unfortunately, if they haven't planned to experience a life elsewhere or for others to experience a better life because of them, their family members still have to pay taxes on whatever they may possibly receive,
Mhm.
whether it's a
Mhm.
401k or a trading account or just money in someone's bank accounts or property. If it's
Le-
not accounted for, it's a big issue.
Leland, help people to realize that if they just have their money in a bank account, and I'm not saying bank accounts are bad, I'm just saying that they're getting less than 1% of interest per year. It's like 1/100% of interest per year. So they are paying the bank
Yeah.
to take care of their money, and they're in the bank, and that money is not just, see, this is what they don't understand. Their money is not just sitting there in the bank. The bank is using their money every day to increase the size of their coffers.
That's
And
right.
so we want to, so do something. You have your money to really work rather than sit there and gather moss or mold.
Absolutely. That money is being leased or lent to Dr. Jeff, to Hank, to myself, to
Mm.
other assets that we're
Ah,
to work. So yeah.
what? I'm sorry. I need to retract the statement I said. Keep on putting your money in the bank so we can use.
Dr. Jeff, what was the first investment that you made, that you look back on your statements or that first check or your balance sheet or whatever, and you say, you know what, this is I want to do more of this. What was that first investment for you?
I would say it was one of my early real estate investments. It was actually a crowdfunding, a debt, um, that it was actually paying 11% on a house that was getting remodeled in Florida. It was a year term, and once I got that first monthly distribution check, I was like, man,
Mm-hmm.
I think it was
Mm-hmm.
it was maybe I got it on a Friday that I wasn't even seeing patients. I'm like, man, I just got paid, for not having to deal with somebody complaining. So that was pretty nice.
Passive, 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 passive,
Yeah.
passive, 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 passive. Oh, Doc, I don't know you, but just sitting here talking with you, I feel a certain kindred spirit that reality struck at a time when you were able to do something about some of your childhood aspirations beyond being a dentist. And what a lot of people do is they stop dreaming when they achieve their first big goal. Normally college is a goal, and then if they decide that they're going to go to med school or that first job, then they stop dreaming. And I heard you guys earlier talk about reading. A lot of people, I was telling Leland, and he didn't believe me. Research has been done that says, in essence, I may get the numbers incorrect, but it doesn't matter. The point makes a lot of sense. And that is that the average person has not read 5 books since high school or college. And they may be self-help books or inspirational books, autobiographies or biographies, which I think is absolutely pathetic. But I'm biased, Doc. I love to read. And years ago, when I was stationed in Iran, I belonged to 2 book clubs, and I was reading minimum 2 books a month. So my kids just couldn't believe my personal library. So you mentioned your son. So people either need to change their minds and read, or read and change their minds, but they're going to have to read to learn something that they don't know that will help them to get where they want to go.
Have you ever thought about being a preacher, Hank?
Oh, Doc, it's interesting that you should say that. My grandmother, my maternal grandmother, and my mom and dad, I'm one of 3 boys, and they said that they wanted one of us to be a preacher. I can't say that the thought crossed my mind, but Leland will tell you that I'm a spiritual person and not necessarily a religious person. And I'm a passionate person, Doc, and I speak from the heart, and that's just who I am. So people can call me what they want to call me as long as they call me.
I like that.
Dr. Jeff, what would any physicians that are listening to this right now, what steps or what advice would you give them to get started?
Today. Today, yes.
With anything that you want to improve on, you've got to set some goals. But I think the problem with goals is they're either unrealistic or the timeline's too long. So start with a 30-day goal. What do you want to accomplish in 30 days? It could be, I want to read 1 book or listen to a podcast about whatever they're looking for, whether it's starting the process of creating passive income, if it's, retiring early, learning about something specific. Just make that go 30 days and then see what happens. We have I was telling you before we started talking, I put together a free ebook on my website, debt-freedr.com/free guide. Probably take 10 minutes to read. And it's a little bit about my story, how I got started, and a couple of examples of what passive income can do to change your life.
Yeah, that's good. I love that.
Doc, this is a personal question. You talked about having goals. I don't know how old you are, but based on what I'm sensing, you won't be practicing dentistry much longer.
My goal is to be out in 5 years or less, and I'm 46.
I'm saying Doc, because I think you know that there are a lot of doctors who practice up until the day they die. And I scratch my head trying to figure out, why didn't they have a plan B? I'm thinking you can't love the practice of medicine so much that you spend all of your time in the office.
If you ask people that practice until they're 80, which I know some people now, and they'll say, well, what else am I going to do? But you look at their life, and all they've done is work. So when they look up, they haven't created any hobbies. They haven't, like you said earlier about their dreams, maybe they had some dreams to travel or whatever, and that's already passed. So what else are they going to do? Well, that's a miserable way to live. If you want to work, if you love your job, that's great.
That's fine. Yeah.
And more power to you. But but there's more to life than work. There's so much out there, and if that's all you do, then that's tough.
Doc, do you find that a lot of colleagues, because they have perceived impotence in the neighborhood, that they're on so many boards that if they were to take some of that time, non-paid time working on boards, they could use that time to read, improve their knowledge base, and thereby find a hobby. Because when I got married, my wife is an OB doc, and I was talking to her, and I said, "Baby," what kind of hobbies do you have? She's in the next room, so I need to be careful. She said, "Hobbies? What are hobbies?" What? I'm going like, wow. She has since learned, but you're right. There's their profession. Their profession is the sum total of their being, and that's sad, Doc. I mean, that's really sad. And I went on your site. I saw a list of books. I don't know whether I saw the book, The Cash Flow Quadrant by Kiyosaki on your site.
It's there.
I'm sorry?
It's there.
Okay, well, because if people are reluctant to read A Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I think most intelligent people who read Cash Flow Quadrant, they will recognize that they're in the A quadrant or the B quadrant. And then I forget the initials, A quadrant on the left-hand side, whatever.
The E
and S.
The E or the S.
Yeah, E. Yeah. And then they need to move to the right side of the quadrants. They have to have a business, or they have to have investments or be independent. So again, forget how I described it. They need to read the book.
Yeah, because I'm on the left side. I'm the S, the self-employed, and you're thinking, oh, I own a business. I have employees. I'm the man. But you know what? If you own the business owns you.
There you go.
And guess what? If I'm not treating patients, there's no money coming in. So you're on the quote poor side. And only way that you can free yourself is getting on that right side. Make your money work for you.
There you go, Doc.
But you're right. That's a very good book to inspire. To answer your question, what somebody can get started today, read that book or read Rich Dad, Poor Dad over the next 30 days. I mean, it's got probably 200 pages. Read 6 pages a day or something, you can do it.
Yeah. My mentor told me to read minimum 50, just read 15 minutes a day, close the book. 15 minutes a day, close the book.
And just real quick for those who are listening, we're not saying that people should not work or that you should quit your job. That's not what we're saying. What we are saying is that as long as you have a plan to build passive income, you have the ability to have more time freedom that allows you to experience life more on your terms.
For the fullest, yes, indeed.
More financially independent. So we're not saying quit your job. So I'm sure there's someone who's listening. They're like, these guys are just bragging about, why they don't have to work as hard. That's not what we're trying to do.
Or that we are great.
Yeah, we're simply just trying to empower others to know the importance of having passive income.
That's it.
But as we wrap up real quick, Dr. Jeff, are there any other final statements, or is there a final statement you want to share with us as we wrap up?
Just make it a point that you start the process, as Hank was saying, over the next 30 days, whether there's really no excuse. If you don't like to read, that's fine. I understand that. But there's really no excuse that you can't listen to an ebook in your car or find a podcast,
Mhm,
whether you're at the gym or driving or something like that.
mhm.
Instead of watching that hour or two of TV a night, cut it in half. And and I think once you get started and learn what's out there and what can be done, I think that will probably excite most people to start to want to do more of it.
I agree, Doc. Start small, but start.
Got to start somewhere.
All right, and that will be the episode for today. For those who are listening, if you want to reach out to Dr. Jeff, please do so. He has a wealth of knowledge on his website. Also, a free guide. Just go to debt-freedr.com, debt-freedr.com, and we will see you all and talk to you guys on the next episode.